Why are you not? There we go. Hello, welcome to Ego What's Next? With me, I have Curtis, who is the Ego Director. I am Edward, the Liminalities Director. Well, actually, sorry. Curtis is the Ego Manager and Director of the um, North America, northern part of the U.S. Uh, he's gonna talk to us about what's happening for season two without giving too much spoilers. And yeah, without further ado, Curtis.
Hey everybody, how we doing? As Edward said, my name is Curtis Baum. I'm the manager for the Ego program. I'm technically an independent contractor taking care of it, but I'm also the volunteer for the Northeast regions. We call it the Frozen North because they have a sense of humor here. But in Ego season 2, we want to cover a lot of what's going on, and there's a ton of different ways we're going to do this. So it's going to be a little bit on the spoiler side, but we're going to try to keep it spoiler light because we have to talk about season 1 in order to talk about season 2. So, season 1, for those of you who have not played it, okay, we are all heroes in the modern world. Politics and religions tend to be put aside because, of feelings and whatnot. But in the modern world, we go out and we save from the weird things, right? So in season 1, the main enemy was a group from another dimension trying to conquer our dimension. And there's a device that crops up late that explains how that happens. It's called the kaleidoscope. And the kaleidoscope comes into play a lot. So we'll talk about the kaleidoscope. There's your spoiler there. The Nacho House is the restaurant where the group called Redemption runs their missions out of. It's a cover restaurant that allows us to travel, meet, and send on missions from there. They were destroyed, essentially, burned to the ground by a traitor in season 1. Okay, and it was kind of, devastating scorched earth tactics.
Kind of a big bad deal.
It did not end up well for anybody involved. But to set that up for season 2, this is what's been going on. Okay, season 1 wrapped up. It had 9 episodes. It wrapped up about Gen Con 2024, although the actual official releases were a little bit after that to get caught up because they had to push their writers a little fast. So the last couple were not edited well and not quite finished when we were actually playing them. And then it ended up in a multi-table special that has only been run once, and it was Gen Con 2024. And we had about 30 total people involved in that, including players and GMs. So those 30 people so far have the badge of honor of being the only people who have run the finale for season 1. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about season 2. We're going to talk about what's coming up, and that finale is going to be important, so we'll get back to that. Here's what's been happening as far as the world in the Nacho House land since. To keep the timeline, there hasn't been a real big stretch between the two. Redemption's gone kind of to ground trying to rebuild. And we've been using the kaleidoscope to explore these alternate dimensions. So these monthly bonus features that we've been running, like January was Pirates, and February is the Agency. Yeah, December was Cyberspace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those bonus features were allowing redemption agents to go in and explore them, and they still get credit for their stories. They're mostly around 3rd level, so the mainstay of redemption characters get credit for them just fine. But like Edward and I were talking about earlier, they're kind of peter out. It's hard to get to about 6th level because you run out of things to do. That will change, but we'll get to that too. So those bonus features are going to continue because we love them. Actually, we really enjoy spending some time exploring the weird things out there. Okay, but Nacho House has gone to ground. Redemption is being rebuilt. Nacho House technically doesn't exist right now. Redemption is being rebuilt. Okay, and the sidekick thing is allowing us to do all these different interdimension things. Means that I have to come up with good reasons for that to work. You'll notice in a lot of the new adventures, like Pirates, they'll have a section about what about my ego. So we're filling in some of the gaps on some of the bonus materials that have come out since. And then we've got to update the field manual as well to cover new options, uh, new situations, how to create characters should be in there, things like that. So that's what's been happening as far as the world of Nacho House Redemption and my job. Okay. Any questions so far on any of that?
From me, no. Well, other than, so you're saying that all of the monthly stuff that's been coming out is basically side missions or operations for.
It's yeah. Actually, that's a great way to look at them. The operations. Operations were what we had for the non-critical tangent side quests, the one-offs, as we kind of joke about them in the industry. They're not related to the overall plot. They're not important to what's happening in the real world, but there's something to do. You know, it's like taking a working vacation to Tahiti, right? So that's exactly what we're tying them in as is like the Crow was our first approved kind of side plot was Forsyth's Folly, right? Along that same line, and every single one of the um, new bonus features that comes out, all those adventures are actually going to be ego friendly. That's why they show up on dispatch. It's because you can get credit for them. Now, sometimes, as I said, they come with those. What about my ego sections there? And other times they do not, and sometimes they're a little interesting to write. Like going into to what we were talking about earlier here about some of the cinematics, right? You've got some of the cinematics, like Rambo, are really redemption friendly. Rambo's really not a stretch. Um, Total Recall's a little bit of a stretch. Universal Soldier is not much of a stretch. Kong is a stretch. Pacific Rim, okay, now that's a real stretch, right? Because anybody with a Jaeger, they win. Because Redemption doesn't have anything to fight a Jaeger. So some of those stories take a little bit of work. Highlander is a way out there stretch, right? So those sort of things take a little bit of work. And then, of course, we've got the cinematics, the big cinematics, the cinematic source books along those lines. And those are all older IPs right now. And so we're in the process of getting new ones out, like Return of the Living Dead, which if you're a backer, you've got the PDFs already, but
Oh
the
yeah.
actual books are on their way to printer. Right? Ooh, Highlander. Yeah. So Return of the Living Dead is an odd one because Redemption doesn't exactly go around eating people's brains. So how do we do that? How do we make that fit within the concept of who Redemption is? A modern, maybe slightly sci-fi based organization that's not silly, right? So those are things that we're working on. And most of the Return of the Living Deads aren't too bad. It's just like I'm cutting something that's a zombie apocalypse and I don't know what to do about it, but I survive. One of them in have you read Return of the Living Dead yet, Ed?
I have not read all of it. I kind of flipped through the PDF. I just didn't really.
Okay, so what did you think of the very, very, very last scenario, or did you get that far?
I didn't really read any of the scenarios. I was more reading like the, the origins and the stuff
The
that up
mechanics.
yeah, the mechanics to kind of get that wrapped around my head because there are new mechanics in that. Um, But yeah, I haven't really. I got that just a
All
little
right,
bit
so
like this past week, so I
I'll
was
give
more
you a
focused
minor
on.
spoiler alert on it then. Okay. It's got actually 4 adventures in Return of the Living Dead. 3 of them are dealing with some kind of zombie apocalypse situation. The fourth one, you're the zombies. Creating
Mm.
the what about my ego for when you're the zombies, that one took some work as an example, right? But we want to be able to get credit for it. And we want to make it make sense. We want to make it tied into the universe. Okay. So we've got the other cinematics coming up and the other IPs as well. The cinematics, of course, are movie based source material. The monthlies are small snippets of genre specific heightened things. But then we also have the main rule books. And our next main rule book is what?
Intergalactic Heroes, which is gonna sound pretty. It's gonna
Intergalactic
be
Heroes.
with
Right. We've got to talk
Throne
about
Lord.
Armory briefly. Armory's wrapping up real quick, actually. But
Yeah,
Intergalactic Heroes is the big one, right? And a lot of the writing's been done on it. A lot of the planning's been done on it, but it's still a ways out there. So we want to merge that in with Ego. We'll get to that. But does that make sense? So we're trying to tie Ego in with the rest of the IPs a little bit better moving forward. Because season 1 didn't really have that very well. Okay.
hardly at all, actually. Season one.
So was that
Season one hardly
like not
had
at
it
all?
at all. Like you. I mean, for one of them, I talked to Eric about, there was a big storm that came up, and I'm like, well, let's say that this is in Maine, but it's a tropical storm, like would be around, so it warmed up and was warm water coming down from like Kong's Island, Skull Island, to kind of forebode that kind of thing, um, which I got permission for.
Yeah.
Um,
But you get the idea, right? It's tricky. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Eric, we just referenced him. Eric's kind of he was in charge of Ego prior to me taking over. I was a director, which is a volunteer position, just like Edward. But Eric was running the show of a lot of different shows. He was in charge of Ego. He was in charge of a lot of the editing and a bunch of other things. So I kind of took one of his plates off of his hat, or one of his hats off his head, one of his plates off of his plate. So that's where I came in and took over for Ego, and I've only been in that position since August, actually. So for those keeping track, I've hit 5 months. That's about it. Okay, so the lot's been going on in those 5 months. We've been trying to get all that back stuff up and running, trying to get all the source books, all the cinematics tied in better. What about my egos? Those of you who have run scenarios know that you get some kind of perks at the end of the scenarios for the season ones, right? Like, oh, yay, I got a hamburger. I'm not going to give any spoilers. The hamburger is actually pretty cool. Um, or I get
well, if you
other
run if you
other.
run Foresight's Folly, you get you can use the feat that allows you to basically become a seer or something from the Crow
You,
universe.
the crows was kind of a not really well tied in with those rewards, but you get the idea, right? You get a mutation pet from one of them. You get a robot shark from one of them. Those sort of things. We want to get those added up as well. Those are what we're referring to as redemption rewards for all the players and the GMs who run that scenario. And we're trying to get all those filled out as well from all the cinematics and all the other material, the bonus material
Mm.
that comes out. Plus, Dave and I, Dave Scott, of course, is the head honcho. He and I talked about ways to get fun things from the scenarios into the player's hands that are kind of unique to that scenario. So, like one scenario has a 20 bore shotgun in it, is what it's called. So, you want a really unique weapon. That's the only place you're ever going to get one is by that scenario. and then you can acquire it for your character to work with. So that's part of the Gen Coins rewards for GMing. You get these bonus points. That's one of the rewards we're adding. And so I'm working on that list as well. So right now, what's going on is filling in those gaps and assembling all this information, and it's a mountain of info. Okay, but that's not really what we want to move forward on. That's not what we want to talk about. It's just that that's what's happening right now. So along that same line, we have our tools we have to use. Dispatch just went through a massive overhaul. I don't know how much you guys have had a chance to play with it this week, but it's gone through a pretty big overhaul. And Sidekick's due for the next one. And when we talk about overhauls, we hit the dev team hard, and they run with it for a while. Like this dispatch overhaul, they were hitting for like 9 weeks straight just to get it to where it is. We were brutal to our poor devs just because this is what we want. This is how we wanted to do it. So those are the tools that we're working at is dispatch, where we run our games, and Sidekick, where all the rules are, all the scenarios and things like that. So those have been, behind the scenes, but those are tools we need. All right. So what's happening season 2, right? That's what we're all here for.
Yeah. What is happening in season 2?
Let's give you the rundown. So season 1 had 9 scenarios plus the multi-table special. Season 2 has 17 plus a multi-table special. And season 1 had one arc that kind of overlaid most of it with a few asides. Like the plot for it was tied into number 2, number 3.
Kind of number 1 too.
Or,
Meet the enemy. You met that enemy again. So technically, even the
well,
first aside.
Lionel's not directly related to the evil organization, though. He's kind of a side plot.
Well, yeah, but he was
Sort of
used at one point. Anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, you get the idea, right? So you had a kind of ons and offs. A lot of them were tied into the overall plot, and a lot of them, especially the early ones, they had Lionel in it. Were not part of the main plot, but they were important elements of the history of the universe, as it were. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So in season 2, we got the main plot, and we're breaking it into 4 story arcs of 3 scenarios apiece. So, like, we'll focus on this bad guy for 3 scenarios, this bad guy for 3 scenarios, this bad guy for 3 scenarios, and then the finale. Finale is actually 4 tied together, 3 of them, and then the finale. Okay, and then those little one shots are going to have it be sprinkled out throughout the season. Okay. We already have the authors working on the first. The first one's actually done, and then the authors are working on the first arc, and the next side quest thing are already being worked on.
Okay.
And so we're already way ahead of the plan, because we want to make sure that some of the problems we had with season 1, for those who played with it, as I said, we kind of rushed the devs because those of us who played it realized that we needed more material to keep the game. We can't have a scenario released every other month and keep a playgroup active.
Yeah, it was for those of you who are new to Ego and new to this. It took months to get a new scenario, and so you're running the same thing, and I had people that were making new characters just to run the same thing, but they already knew the scenario, so it was like, how do I make this different?
It was rough, and you don't know when you create the program initially. You're not sure what to expect on it, and so one of the important things we have to do is we learn from the mistakes and learn from what worked and what didn't. And so with season 2, that's exactly what we're doing. We're making some of those changes to make sure that there's more scenarios. We're making those changes to make sure that more predictably released, and the QA is a little bit higher. Okay, uh, they're taking it very seriously. We have a budget. We have our goals. We've actually. I was telling Edward about this earlier. We actually are aiming for making sure we have enough GMs to run it, and all sorts of fun things like that. Okay, so that's season 2 in a big nutshell. But I'm not gonna give too many spoilers in there. But let's just say that the those of you who have run season 1 know who the traitor is. Okay, and if
Yeah.
I gather right from what Edwards told me, he probably knows there's a traitor, but he hasn't pinpointed who it is yet. But you find out who the traitor is in season 1. He's back with a vengeance for season 2. Not the extra dimensional enemy that you beat up for season 1, but the traitor is back for season 2. Okay, we are going to learn a lot about Walt in season 2. Okay,
Walt.
for those of you who are, what's that?
Good old Walt.
Good old Walt. Walt the Walt is your basic handler, and he's been the handler for almost every mission in season 1. So he's there, he's going to be present, but he's probably not going to be the only handler in season 2. And we're going to explore a lot of Walt's history and details on him. I don't want to give away too many spoilers on that. But he's going to be a major element of season 2 plot. Okay. And you'll find out fairly early why, but I'm not going to get into that. Like the second or third adventure, you'll go, what the heck? It'll be cool. We've got other characters that are recurring that are important, like Lionel. Okay, we talked about Lionel a little bit. Lionel's a mad scientist out to save the world from the effects of not enough protein. He's not really a bad guy. He's just a little misguided, is a good way to phrase him.
He's loopy.
But we want to follow up a little bit with him and a little bit on the concept of the kaleidoscope. So he may show up, but not him. It might be an alternate him that does weird things somewhere else. Oh, now I'm starting to scare you. But he's
With
scary enough. He doesn't need any help.
Yeah, I was
Right?
gonna say, yeah, he doesn't need any help.
We're doing all sorts of interesting things along that line. So we're using the material from the monthlies, and we're actually integrating it into the plot elements for season 2. And as I mentioned, the big thing that they're working on right now is Intergalactic Heroes. Season 2 is going to launch at Origins this year in June and run until Origins 2027. And that will be tied up with very significantly Intergalactic Heroes. And so you're going to see a lot more of the real fun stuff hit, but it's going to be kind of late in the season. Since you were asking about that earlier, Edward.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot going on there. Was that?
Yeah. I was also talking to you earlier about the pacing because those of us who've been in season 1 uh, have pretty much maxed out the characters. And I was saying earlier that it makes sense for season 2 to basically start off with a whole new crew, um, dealing with new issues. Um, but there are those of us who have our favorite character who are going to want to bring that character back once the higher level stuff comes around. Um,
Yeah.
because, you know,
Right now, your maximum character is really going to need about 6th. And we realize that's a problem. Okay. And so we're finding ways around that to get where you need to be. And the specials, one way to bump that a little bit. But we were talking about the pacing in season 2. we want to make sure that you have enough for the brand new 1 to 4 characters, and then we want to have enough to get at least up to about 8. We're currently debating on whether to go all the way to 10 or not, but that's the concept. Is we're at least going to get solidly more, at least 6 level material, and we don't know how much further than that we're going to go. That was still kind of in discussion. We've got another book that I want to talk about that we're going to have coming out. We're going to aiming for it for Origins this year. And I've officially been told that, yeah, it's green lit. We're not 100% solid on all the content, the page content, and all that. But this is going to be a book you can actually pick up in gaming stores. And we're actually really excited about it because it's a redemption campaign setting, essentially. And we're going to have, in that book, we're going to have new origins. Well, not origins. I take that back. Not origins, backgrounds. I always get those two words mixed up. We're going to have new backgrounds, and we're going to have new professions and new classes that are specific to the redemption setting. We're going to talk about what it's like to run a Nacho house in different areas. We're going to have major NPCs with a little bit of history in there. We want to see a lot of our real fun characters that we had in season 1 that only really kind of showed up, but they're memorable. And we want to flesh them out a little bit more. Lionel's one of those. Okay. Lionel's a lot of fun. He's a memorable character, but he shows up in 2 adventures. Okay. If I say the word Greencastle, who knows who Greencastle is?
I recognize
Do
it.
you remember Greencastle?
Yeah, wasn't he that guy that runs he was in
She.
dubious, huh?
She.
She.
She is the only character or the only NPC we've had that has space capability.
Oh, that's right. She's the
She's
Elon Musk.
sentient in the room.
She's the Elon Musk of yeah, okay. I remember now.
We don't, yeah. As I say, no, we're not doing real world, but you get the idea, right? She's rich, but she's a benevolent character as far as redemption goes. We want to pursue Greencastle a little bit, for example, or we want to review. If you guys have been to Greece, you'll know there's somebody who loves their potatoes. You remember that?
Yep.
GMO potatoes.
Yep. Yep.
She was a support character, important to that particular episode, that particular scenario, but she kind of faded off into the sunset. What if we brought her back a little bit? Because she's actually got some history. Or there's a manager that you meet early in one of the season 1s, shows up again late in season 1. But again, it's a 2-shot sort of thing. And so we're looking at some of those characters and how to bring them up in current and make them more recurring roles. Because we think that the cast needs to be diversified a little bit. We like Walt, good old Walt the Vault, but we want to have the pieces in place for him to do his job, right? Or who are these people? I mean, when we want to look at fleshing those out a little bit, we want to look at the background of who redemption actually is a bit. And so we're looking at this book really in depth. Paul, who's the art director and helps with all the layout planning and things like that, and Eric, who I previously mentioned, who actually does the backstory of Ego and redemption, as well as has to edit all of the terrible things that I write. We've been looking at this and just pounding it out and how to make this perfect. So what do we do here? What's the history of redemption? How's the organization set up? Who do we work with? We've talked a little bit about the agency, and today's a good month to talk about the agency, right? Especially if you happen to save the world from little green men earlier today, right? The agency is the focus for February for the bonus materials. So how does the agency relate to redemption? How does Gorgon relate to redemption? Right? How do the bikers relate to redemption? We want to explore those a bit.
Well,
Make
if I
the
remember correctly, there was the uh not op the not the operation, the mission where you end up getting into a street race with one of them of that biker
yeah, there's
gang.
one mission where you end up trying to escort materials and get accosted by bikers, right? So those sort of organizations, and I'm not going to say that all of those are going to make it into the final product. As I said, we're still refining it, but that's what we want to look at. We want to actually make a book that's available in stores that says, hey, this is what our world's really like.
And actually have some
So that people
background on
can run with it.
all of the directors for once. That'd be nice.
Oh no, we'll never disclose all the directors. I'm not sure that we actually know. I'll be very, very honest because we keep
Uh,
them off screen ourselves. But after one particular director betrayed us, stabbed us, stole our special cheese sauce, you know, and we know how he got away, and we know how he's affecting the redemption world now, and we know what he's trying to do. Okay, I know what he's trying to do. You don't, right? Well, he's trying to conquer the world. I'll settle that one easy because they always want to conquer the world, right? But we know what he's doing. We know how he's doing it. And we know the bad guys he has in place to help him. We actually have lieutenants in place for him this year. And that's what those main story arcs are about, is his lieutenants. And
oh.
some of them we have names and some of them we just have concepts right now. But
So there was a
we've
question
actually,
which
oh,
has
was
nothing
that?
to. There was a question in the group or in the chat about Night of the Living Dead. Uh, this is actually Return of the Living Dead, which was Romero's partner, I believe, who wrote Return of the Living Dead. Um, so I think it's based around very similar things, Code Red, but that's not really going to affect Ego too much right now.
No, a lot of those things we want to impact them, but there's certain things we have to draw lines on, right? If we have a zombie apocalypse, it changes the world. And we don't necessarily want to do that. We have Jaegers. If we have a Jaeger, as I said, it breaks the whole thing. So we can't really do everything we'd like to do with like Pac Ram in Redemption. Um, some of the others, Kong is honestly removed enough that probably wouldn't affect anything too much, right? Because he's a nice, ape that stays on his island, usually, unless we're stupid and move him. But you get the gist. They don't really impact anything, but some of them do. And therefore we have to handle them carefully. So Return of the Living Dead with the What About My Egos, the best way we got to approach it is an alternate dimension through the kaleidoscope. But we're working with it. We're trying to find ways to actually say, I want to take my ego character there, right? Here's your prime example. I'm going to pick on my wife. Okay, I decided to run good old Western cattle rustling. And Christy wanted to play her ego character. So she goes out there with a bodyguard out there fighting them cowboys with them Gatling guns. And naturally, all the other people in the party were from the Wild West in the alternate dimension. And Christy just happened to be the only ego character there. But it was fun. We had a blast with it. Cinematic wise, we got some fun things that I can't talk about because they're not quite released. They're not announced. We've got a lot of things in the works. We've got a lot of really cool stuff we want to do. I can't talk about, but we are making sure that it has a way of tying in with ego. Believe me, I'm very vocal about that. Dave even says I'm a little too vocal sometimes. But no, we want everything to be worked with ego, because the organized play program, the whole purpose of what we have with ego is to have fun and have people play the game. But it's also the best advertising arm we've got. Oh, I'm getting disparaged in my chat channel. I can't read it, but I saw somebody picking up.
Oh, it's just are you pushing couch time with your story against for Christy on Christy?
I don't have a couch. But no, and in all honesty, the real funny thing is Christy's usually the GM. At least she has been for a while. She
Mhm.
has to put up with my shenanigans.
Oh yeah,
And
she definitely has to put
Edward's
up your
there for me.
shenanigans.
He knows my shenanigans. What's that?
Oh yeah, yep, yep.
Blue is still my favorite character. He's fourth. I have two level fours. They shot hit four today. But Blue is the most interesting football player I've ever come up with. Speaking of Super Bowl Sunday, I created him for Super Bowl Sunday 2 years ago. Yep. Okay. So, I mean, that's what we've got so far to talk about. We know that we're going into Intergalactic Hero space. That's not going to be out in time for early season 2, but we're going to tie it in. Okay. And we have reasons. We're going to explore Walt's history. We're going to explore who Walt really is. And I think that some of that is going to kind of dumbfound people. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much about that.
Yeah, don't
Those
say
of
too
you
much.
who've played some of season 1 know enough about Walt to know that he's got some secrets. Okay. But I'll leave that one at that. But that shows up late season 1, like 7, I think it was, is where that shows up.
6, 7.
At least 6, 7, somewhere in that area.
Well, you have to do 6 before you do 7, so that's why I said do 6, 7.
To make it make context, yeah. Those two are very much related.
And don't do them out of order because you it ruins the impact.
It loses context. Six really should be played before 7. Some of the others doesn't matter too much. Like 1 should be played before 4. 2 and 3 and 5 really don't matter which order they're played in.
Other than
But
5
6
is
really should be before 7.
pretty 5 is pretty hard to do as a level 1 though, so you don't really necessarily want to do that because
Yeah, it would
that's a
be hard. Blue had a lot of fun on 5 in 5.
um,
He did what football players do. But that's without spoilers, it's been a lot of fun. But we want to make sure that all these characters and all these potentials and all these different stereotypes get a chance to see their playtime. Okay, so we are writing the adventures much more open to, okay, how do you want to deal with this kind of problem? Okay, because that's one of the things that comes up in play. Well, I want to try this skill. Well, it doesn't say you can do that. We don't want to have the approach of you don't want to be able to do that. We want to, okay, you want to do it? Okay, sell it to me. Tell me why that works, and I'll believe you. Okay, I'll give you die rolls on it. And so we're trying very hard to make the game much more open. And some of that has required us to, for lack of a better word, train our writers. And Eric, bless his soul. Yeah, Eric actually, when we started talking about the season 2 book that we were talking about, okay, Paul and Eric and I had a conversation. We sat down for about an hour and chatted about it, maybe an hour and a half, I don't remember. And then Paul goes, okay, I'll put up the storyboard, if you will, what we're going to talk about. And I put in my 2 cents worth and I spelled out some of the details that he asked me to spell out. And I think Eric didn't sleep for 3 days and he wrote background story. Okay. The guy is just phenomenal and loves the history that we're portraying in this. And so when we're writing these books, these authors are writing these books. Eric actually has a guide on this is what's happening in the world. This is how you write for this world. This is what's believable and this is what's not. This is how, all that detail. He's actually got three of them, actually, three different books, depending on what your role is, whether you're a writer or whether you're an editor or whatnot. And then we're taking all that information and spelling it out. And like, as an anthropologist, one of the bigger concerns for me is why would a nacho house in Los Angeles be the same as a nacho house in Tokyo? Right.
Well, other than the
So,
fact that it's a franchise like McDonald's. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
have you ever been to McDonald's in Hawaii?
Yes, their breakfast is
Okay.
way different.
How many other McDonald's do you have pineapple with everything?
See, I didn't have, they didn't, it was available, but it wasn't with everything. I lived in
No, when
Hawaii.
I went to Hawaii, now granted it was 23 years ago. When I went to Hawaii 23 years ago, okay, pineapple with everything. I want a Happy Meal with pineapple. But my point is, I'm not trying to naysay anything, but even the options were different. They had spam on things in
Hmm.
Hawaii.
Yep.
You're not going to find a spam Big Mac in New York, right? So there's cultural differences that play into that, and I want to explore some of that as well. So I'm pushing really hard to have at least a little bit about what makes a nacho house different throughout the world and how that would play out and how that would look. We don't know. We were still arguing a little bit about some of those features. Is the architecture going to be the same? And actually, speaking of season two, you're going to find out a lot about the history of nacho house too. But it'll be fun. But that sort of thing is in that campaign guidebook, uh, and so it makes it more real throughout the world. Those of us who've played a large number of season ones, right? Walt is your handler, like in every single mission, except for like one
Two.
out of all the season. Right?
Well,
He's all over. Oh yeah,
if-
except for two of them, I think. Yeah,
two. There's one mission and then one assignment.
yeah. I'm not counting the missions, but he's not the main handler for a couple of I think mission two and maybe mission three. But I think that it's important to Walt's important to the plot. I don't want to say it isn't, but it's not just the Walt show, right? It's an entire organization, and so we're going to try to spread that out a little bit too. Yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting a mission from a nacho house in Berlin
Hmm.
or a nacho house in Dubai or wherever. So a lot of the discussion we've had behind the scenes is what is a nacho house, because the concept of nacho houses has varied quite a lot. If you run six, okay, it actually has a map of a nacho house in assignment six, but you notice it had a drive-through,
Yeah, which
and that
was which is different
extra.
from the nacho houses and all the other ones, because the other ones seem like, from their descriptions, that for those of you who don't know, the description of a nacho house in assignment one or even mission one was like a sit-down restaurant with a conference room. But then
Mhm.
we get the map, and it looks like a McDonald's.
A big McDonald's, but yeah, and that sort of thing. So there's some consistency. We haven't talked about how many nacho houses are there, and are there different varieties of them? Because it's not a franchise; it's an enterprise. It's one big company running them all, right? So what's the differences between them, and are there small ones, kind of outpost nacho houses? And so we're going through some of that conversations right now. And what makes those, and where will they show up? And there's got to be some that are kind of fast foodish places, and some that are more sit downish. And part of the fun, believe it or not, is that the writers are from all over the U.S. and we all have different opinions of what we're talking about. So yeah, I'm from Utah. I live in Ohio. Paul lives in California, and Eric lives in Washington. So they're Pacific on it, and Utah's close enough that I've been to California so I can talk to them. But like Brian is in Indiana, so it's his concept. When we talk about like a nacho house, partially is based on the idea of a Waffle House, but I don't think Eric and Paul have ever seen a Waffle House, so they didn't quite get it. They were more relating it to like a Denny's, and so that's from some of the fun conversations we've had. So we're going to try to standardize some of those little minor things too.
That'd be
And
nice.
yeah, we have
Maybe
weird breakfast platters.
and get a different and get a new map of a nacho house.
We'll see because the nacho houses you've dealt with aren't around. The very first mission, assignment, I should say, assignment 2-1, is actually already written. Eric wrote it, and he actually is going through the rebuilding phase and coming back out of the shadows, back into the light, fundraising, getting the word out, that sort of thing. And so that's what the very first assignment's all about. It's actually a higher level one. It's a 3-6, as I understand it. I haven't actually seen it. I just know it's done. And then dealing with the second mission is when we start digging into the history of the Nacho House franchise and Redemption's history and Walt's history. That all starts on the second assignment. So what do you think of
Sounds interesting.
that? Yeah, and both of those, okay, are going to be released in Origins. So let's talk about Origins. Okay, we can't talk about Redemption without talking about Origins. Yeah, we had to pick a convention that was big but not inexpensive to showcase the start of our season. Okay, we debated it for a while. We thought about Gen Con for a little bit, but Gen Con's too expensive. We like Nacho Con because Nacho Con is very specific to Redemption. And it brings a smile to my face, but it's not an in person. It's not quite big enough. So Origins is what we all settled on, and we're in Origins. We're going to kick off season 2. We're going to run season 1 stuff throughout the con as well, but we're starting off with season 1, and on Friday of Origins is going to be the special, the season 1 finale, run for the second time ever, and then after that, season 2 kicks off. So we'll have all sorts of fun things with there.
Cool.
And yeah, we've got Paul's actually looking at maybe even getting some souvenirs specifically for people who run. Um, the second scenario is called Grand Reopening. The first scenario is called Redemption Songs.
Cool.
And those of you who've followed us for a while, you know Thomas Pugh. He's writing the first arc. Eric wrote Redemption Songs, and Thomas Pugh's writing the first arc. And so he's digging into Redemption's history. He's actually been kind of fundamental to this book we're writing too. He's had a chance to look at our plans.
So let's open it up to questions now because we've been yapping for quite a bit.
I've been
Uh,
talking forever, haven't
yep. And it's interesting stuff. It's not like it's I mean, I'm looking forward to season 2. Of course, I've been looking forward to season 2 since the end of season 1. Um,
I? Yeah, me too.
uh, So for anyone in the audience, there's four of us here. There's Valkyrie, there's Code Red, and Chimera, and Christy. Although Christy kind of already kind of knows some things going on. So, uh,
She
do you
knows a lot
guys
more
have
than she should.
do you have any questions? Uh, Especially those of like Code Red and Valkyrie. You guys are completely new to Everyday Heroes, as far as I know. And we lost Valkyrie because
She
she
ran
must
away.
have had. Well, they had to go back to work, so that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah,
or
I
maybe,
realized it was the hour.
or me calling them out specifically. Um, so Code Red, since you are quite frankly, I think the newest of our GMs, uh, do you have any questions maybe about season one that we can answer without spoiling? Because we don't want to spoil it for you. We want you to actually go through and have fun. Um, that me or Eric could answer for you. Or not Eric, Curtis. Wow, I'm
Ouch!
I'm getting
You're
sleepy.
fired.
Well, I already got fired this
It's been a
weekend.
long weekend. I had to take some, uh, as I said, Dayquil right before this conference.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
This
to
panel.
cut this shortly soon because I have work in the morning. Um,
I got
or
you.
or Chimera, do you have any questions? Because you've been around since the beginning. Uh, you mean is there a way to see the uh big finale thing? Um,
Oh, okay. Actually, we're gonna unveil a little bit there to you. Edward and I have been talking at length, trying to find a way to. We want to have it available online at some point. We're just trying to figure out when to do it and how many
and
people really are needed to do it and infrastructure that we need to do it. In short, I can't promise a way, but we are working our brains, which is not the best weekend to work our brains because we're sleep deprived. But we are trying to find a way. And if we can come up with a way, we will advertise it and we will run it just that one, you know, special on like a weekend with as many people as we can get there.
yeah,
Okay. But I think we need at least 3 tables for me to push it through because I got to, you know, appeal to the high and mighties to get that running. But we want to, we really do want to.
yeah, because I also can't necessarily make it to the con. I'm gonna try to make it to Origins this year, but I can't promise because who knows what it's gonna be like for me.
Well, real world, real world.
Yeah. Um, so I feel you, Chimera. I would like to, you know, be able to run that particular thing too, or be a part of it in some way. Um, so Curtis and
I
I
will, I
are
will tell you this ties into this. I will tell you this. I will be happy to be the head GM for it. Okay, it's a fun story. Okay, I don't know how much people have done season one. Have you done most of the season one, Chimera?
he's done all but nine. We were both looking forward to doing nine
Oh, and nine,
together.
so you're right there with
Yeah.
them. Okay, so ironically, I haven't played 8 or 9, but I have done the special. Okay, so we're on the same page roughly. Okay, um, the special you already know who the bad guy is, so the special is just taking down the bad guy. But it's interesting in the way it's run, and this is part of the logistics of Edward and I trying to sort this out. when one table finishes off taking off the bad guy, they can go help another table. And from a standpoint of a multi-table special, from the ones that I've run, and I've run a lot of them over the years, that's a logistics disaster, but it works for this concept within this multi-table special. Okay, and if you're paying a lot of attention during the multi-table special, you'll see elements of the cinematics tied in. Okay, there's little visions, if you will, of all the CAs. Um, yeah, I don't know. I didn't watch the cinematic adventure panel yesterday, but we're working very hard. And one of the things they want to do with the CAs, they learned from their mistakes on a bunch of different things. The CAs last time they had all of them all together about the same time, all 8 of them, and that
Right.
just kind of was not the best idea, to be polite. So they're staggering them.
Well, that was part of the thing that they talked about. They talked about more that for CAs, what they want, or the cinematic source books, the CSs, they want to find something unique enough that you can't all like it needs to be interesting enough to require its own set of rules or its own set
Right.
of
It has
stuff.
to have enough there to make it an
Like
actual source book
like
rather than just an appendix.
like Rambo was an appendix because you could basically run Rambo with the basic rules.
Yeah, Rambo
Um,
didn't require hardly any.
right.
But Pac
Escape
Rim,
from
of course, did.
right. Pac Rim,
For more.
Kong, um, stuff like that. That was brought up, and I think that's cool. Um, uh, so yeah, like staggering them,
So
having them more like unique, like the newest one, Return of the Living Dead,
yeah, um,
zombies,
I can't zombies.
zombies.
There's one that's actually been secure. It's signed, sealed, delivered, but it's not announced, so I cannot say it. But it is going to be a real fun one. It's going to be much more family friendly than like zombies. Okay, and then we're actually in talks for a whole bunch of others. We're trying to get pinned down, and we chat about it almost every week about what we want to see and which ones we like, this, that, or the other better, and whatnot. So it's a very lengthy process, and of course you got to get the contract, and the contracts a lot of times are just impossible because you never can figure out who owns what. But we're really working hard on them, but we want to stagger them so that the whole team can focus on like zombies and get zombies pounded out before we focus on the next one, and then we focus on the next one. And you get the idea. And like with Intergalactic Heroes being our next big thunk book, right? We want to have things that are tied to that as our next CAs. So our CSs. I've been saying CAs for so long, I'm going to be saying CAs and it's going to give me trouble. But
Well,
our
yeah,
source books.
yeah, the source books.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, so yes, Chimera, we are going to try to work on getting uh number 10 up and running online, but it's a logistics nightmare.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just a very special. I mean, it's not even the normal multi-table special. This is kind of a unique one. And so it's kind of fun. Brian was the head GM when we ran it at Gen Con last time, and I'll be the head GM at Origins. But I'm perfectly happy head GMing it anywhere, as long as I can logistically get it pushed through.
I would say we would need at least 4 tables for that to make it so that that's my opinion.
Yeah,
If we can get
you,
four
you and I
tables.
will talk about it, and we'll figure out a way. We have ways of making you roll dice.
Um, so there's that. Uh, I don't really think there's much more. Like, I'm sure you could go on, but like, do we really need to? You've pretty much covered.
I think
everything and
I think we've
more.
covered as much as I can without getting too spoilery.
Right. So
Okay, I know the plots of the first. I keep tabbing out on you. Actually, I'm about to tell you that, but I know the plots of the first like 8 of them.
yeah, we don't need that because
I
that's
don't need that.
spoiler material.
Yeah,
We don't want
exactly.
spoilers. We just want like it's gonna be cool to know that we're gonna be doing something that's like, oh, we're gonna be taking out somebody's lieutenants. Where in season one it was like, oh, we got this crisis we got to take care of, and then this crisis, and then this crisis. So
Oh,
I
I
mean,
do want to bring one more thing out, okay? Because this has been a major point that we've argued about a little bit. There are some of the things in season one that seemed a little too slapstick. Okay, we want the situation to be a real world kind of weird situation,
hmm
but all the comedy should be from the character standpoint, not from the plot, not from the you know dialogue, things like that. So we're trying to make it much more feel real, even though it's weird. If that makes sense?
so like meet the enemy
Yeah,
as an ex.
yeah. Lionel Lionel's going to be fun in season two. Is all I'm going to say about that one. He's going to be a
Um,
hoot,
but
but it might not be the Lionel you.
right. But yeah, like anyway.
We're going to tie in a lot more with the bonus materials. Natively is going to be part of it.
No, that makes sense. Um,
So one of the lieutenants I came up with, I proposed it. I thought I was being just completely silly, and they started digging into it, going, "Okay, how can we do this?" And I think that's actually what's going to be one of the villains, one of the lieutenants, is this absolutely ridiculously silly idea, but they found out a way to do it, or
mm.
at least most of it, and it
and,
ties in with the concept, the plots of it. It's really cool.
and yes, the moon adventure was good without being
That one wasn't comedy.
that one
It was
was
actually kind of
that one was a good mix of like sci-fi ish, like, hey, we've got a base on the moon, or someone's got a base on the moon doing something, blah 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 blah. Um,
right, but it was believable.
right. Um, versus like, well, unexpected retreat. uh, the the
Yeah,
the the second iteration of seeing the good crazy
Lionel
doctor.
Part Two.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, there's bits in Unexpected Retreat that would work, and it just had a little went off the rails over here. Yeah, and I think a lot of it, like I said before, we had our authors, and they weren't quite sure how to approach things. So some of them were kind of really out there. I mean, with Eric's new guide rails, they kind of gave him a focus, a little bit better focus.
yeah, I think Eric even mentioned in because for those of you who don't know, Eric was the director, or not the director, he was the manager. Uh,
Before
he
me.
was like,
Yeah,
w- didn't really like there wasn't really there was we want to end here, but there was no like cohesiveness really between the writers. And even Eric was like, yeah, I see that and I need to fix that. Um,
yeah,
which it sounds like is happening, which is great. So
yeah,
season two actually having several overarching stories, or with one big overarching story with like mini stories in between, like mini arcs, that's going to be great.
yeah.
Um,
No, we're really excited about it. We know who the. I mean, you're going to have an episodic, climatic battle naturally, but that doesn't mean you're going to fight a lieutenant every thing. So every story arc, you got 3 stories. You deal with 2, bosses, and then the lieutenant.
Hmm.
Okay, the lieutenant's going to lead back to our favorite trader.
I don't know if he's our favorite trader, but he is the trader. Anyway, um, uh, I don't really know what more we could talk about without getting into things that you can't really talk about. So I think we should call it
You
here.
better call
Yeah. Um, I hope you all enjoyed learning where Redemption is going to be going. Um, and I know I'm looking forward to it. Even if I can't make it to Origins, I am looking forward to at least getting the adventures and starting to run them. Uh, I've had kind of a dry spell because the group that I was running for, we run everything except one, and it felt like if I ran that one, there was really nothing else I could do for the group.
it.
Um,
Yeah, it was a big issue that I felt. Okay, and that was part of the thing is they could have slapped together another season, but it wouldn't have been the substance that honestly Redemption deserves, right? Because these stories, these are our characters, these are our children in a lot of ways, right? And we want their to matter. And so that's kind of one of the things that we have is we want to make the plots worth exploring. We want to make the stories worth running, the adventures worth living. And
right.
so I push really hard and yeah, quite heated occasionally because of what these mean, right? Those of us who play with the organized play programs, whichever system it is, right? This is our life. We want to take our characters and we want to share their stories, even if Edward's the GM. Oh, sorry. You know what I mean? Because that's who we are. We want to take these characters. Like I took Leshat, who's the one I played, dealing with aliens this morning. He's gone through haunted houses, etc. Because I enjoy exploring that aspect of my personality, if you will, right? And that's what we want to share them. But they got to have stories worth telling. And so that's one of the things that was a really big stickler. And it did cause some delays, right? Part of why season 2 took a while to get to was the quality assurance place needed to be in place. And there was a lot of um, reshuffling of concept that happened away from ego, but it naturally affected it, right? Like coming up with the how are we going to do the monthlies because we got the CSs and those have wrapped up. We got to start dealing with a new batch of CSs. And what do we do with the monthlies? And what do we do with other products we've got in the works, right? And all of that. There was some recalibrating would be the best word to phrase it, because I wanted to establish a means of releasing them with consistency. And so the ego took a temporary delay because of that, because they wanted it, and I wanted it to be the quality product that it should be. And so
And
that's what we got there.
that's the perfect reason why it was delayed. I'm not knocking it. It just it I think we lost a lot of GMs because of the dry spell. But I think I think
It
we'll start to get them back. I think,
Yeah.
hopefully. Anyway,
Well, and I think that's having NachoCon is very important to us as the GMs for Ego. Director and manager point aside, but it's important to us to have that kinship and that regularity. But we're definitely it's going to be season 2 is going to be worth it, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I really wish I could say more.
well, you know what? Don't we'll get to see it soon enough. So
You'll get to see it soon enough.
I
Coming
wanna
soon to an Origins near you.
I wanna thank all of you for being here. And those who have been with Ego from the beginning, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for those of you who were here at NachoCon last year. Thank you for coming again. Those who are just joining us, welcome to the chaos. Um, it's a wild ride and it's worth it. So I hope to see everybody again at NachoCon 2027. We'll have it called something a little different than just the year. Um, uh, for next year, I'll come up with something a little more appropriate for being the Nacho house, a little bit of German and Spanish thrown in there as
Das
well.
ist gut.
And I will see all of y'all around. Those who need to get in contact with me, I will leave my email or, well, actually, contact Christy and have her give you my email, or Curtis can give it to you. Um, Code Red, and we can get in touch and chat. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
so
There's both of ours.
those are
So
the those are the
yeah,
those are
the
their
weekly sort of
contacts.
things for ego, and the campaign or the convention sort of things are events. And whatever hat you need, it's not like we don't talk regularly. I promise.
So I want to thank you all for coming, and hope to see you again next year for our annual volunteer run, fan run convention with the support of Evil Genius Gaming. They're the ones that, they make the game that we play, and they were uh, awesome enough to actually, spend some of their advertisement money on our convention. So uh, I want to give a big thanks out to them as well, Evil Genius Games. It's been fun, and I love what they're doing, and I hope to see more of it, and can't wait for the it's not the vault, the armory. That's the next book coming out. Can't wait for that.
Are we
All
soon?
that all them their guns. Oh wait, I'm probably gonna get canceled for that, but anyway, take care, everybody. Signing off.